My dad bought a M7 from Georgia. The next day he took me caribou hunting. We landed in this beautiful spot. It was short, rough, but gorgeous. After that, I knew that's the kind of flying I wanted to do. For years, we've been trying to get a long wing M7 with big tanks, big tires, and get it under 1,500 pounds. And we didn't know if it was going to be possible. In fact, we haven't been close on the last 3 builds. So we wanted to try from scratch building one up and see if it is possible. So this is a Maule we just finished. It's a 2024 M7 235A. This plane here is the best performing Maule I've ever flown, hands down. It'll do things that no other Maule I've flown can do. Yeah, so this is the Lycoming IO540. It's a W1A5D. Lycoming worked with Maule way back in the day actually to build this engine special up to be as light as possible. Our goal with this, not only was it to be light, but we wanted it well balanced. And that meant we needed to get weight off the nose. Anything you can do to get weight moved back on a Maule with the 235s helps it fly better. We've got a field approval for the longest composite propeller that's ever been put on one of these planes. It's 86 inches long. It's really fat all the way out to the tip. And then it's got a nickel leading edge, so the rocks and brush don't bother it. It pulls even harder, it climbs much better, especially with a load. It's amazing. And it acts like a huge air brake, so when you're wanting to come in, you can point the nose down and pull that throttle back, and it slows you down where normally Maules, you have to work really hard to get them to slow down. So that's kind of nice for flying. I can now cruise at 127 in this plane, where when I was flying a Cub, I had a real flat pitched propeller on that. And so, I was doing 86, 87 miles an hour everywhere I went. So with this plane, I can do twice the work that I could get done with a Super Cub in the same day. So as we were building this plane up with that goal of getting under 1,500 pounds, we were working hard. We were leaving everything off possible and only putting on the things that we had to have. We got within 2 weeks of having this finished, and one of our good friends who was building up an M7 long wing, he got it finished and it weighed, I think, 56 or 58. And I was like, he worked so hard to get that light and doing a lot of the similar things that we were doing. And it's like, man, we're not gonna make it. We're not gonna make it. And so I was a little disheartened, but we finished it up. We got the scales, digital scales up here. We pushed the plane onto the scales, leveled the tail and turned them on, and I couldn't believe the number that we saw. One of the things that we did different on this plane is we put the A model wing on it. So it's the longest wing that Maule ever built. And so what is different about this one from my last plane that we built is we went with a longer aileron and a shorter flap. When it's flat calm, the longer flap will allow me to get off just a little shorter and come in just a little slower. But functionally, I can land slower much more of the time with this setup than I could with my other one. If the winds are gusty or a crosswind, this one's got enough aileron control that you can come in slower where I have to come in faster with less flaps. I love it. It's really well balanced. I won't build another Maule without this longer aileron. Let's see, I've got the extended range tank, so I'm just under 90 gallons total of fuel. So when I'm doing surveys, I've done 1,000-mile leg surveys with these fuel tanks. It allows you to fly a long, long time. Like I said earlier, we pushed it onto the scales, digital scales, and I was, at this point, I had given up on the sub 1,500. I was thinking maybe 15, 28, just figured I blew it. I was wrong. It's not possible. And put it onto the scales, and Yeah, I looked at it that first time, 1476. I showed my dad and I said, did we do something wrong? Maybe. Let's push it off and reset the scales. And so we pushed it off, reset the scales, pushed it back on, leveled it, turned it back on, and we both looked at each other and we knew we had something special. I'm not aware of any lighter M7 235 that's certified. Where I'm operating now out in western Alaska, we have to be able to haul whole moose off our strips at a time. Many whole moose taken off this year with this plane in 350 feet. I can't do that in a cub. So one of the other things I love about this is we call them the DeLorean doors, but the normal doors would swing out here and stop at this strut. And so when you're putting a moose quarter in the front, you have to squeeze through here, get it up here, and put it in. And now it's much easier. It's also easier for passengers to get in with this coming up like this. We had some really special seats made. They are the nicest seats that I've ever sat in. We saved 12 pounds in the seats. Had some really special rear seats built up. Had Daniel Macaroni make these up for us. We gave him dimensions and drawings, and he came up with a way to make it actually work. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll put a passenger in the front, passenger in here, and I'll remove this seat and I'll put their backpacks right here. And so you can keep all the weight forward. Which is really nice. So I love that. But they're super lightweight. They're one of the most comfortable Maule seats that I've sat in for the rear seat, and definitely in the front seat. Just phenomenal seats there. So I was up in Coldfoot in high school, 15. My dad bought a M7 from Georgia. The next day he took me caribou hunting. The north side of the Brooks Range, and we landed in this beautiful spot. It was short, rough, but gorgeous. And after that, I knew that's the kind of flying I wanted to do. I didn't want to go fly the big jets. I wanted to fly bush planes in Alaska. At first, I got horribly sick, airsick. I would puke every time we went flying. A lot of vomit, cleaning out of the airplanes happened when I was young. And, but I wanted to fly, and so I kept pushing through it. And don't get sick anymore, but yeah. So my dad, he's been flying over 40 years in this environment all over Alaska, and it's been phenomenal getting to learn from him. That definitely sped things up. He's the one that taught me how to read the tundra and the mountains and look for strips and identify what's good, what's not. And still, flying with him, I'm constantly learning. He'll just be picking up on so many different things, the barometric pressure and what the winds are doing and what that means for the weather that's likely coming, and lots of subtle things that take years and years of experience to pick up. So if you're wanting to get into off-airport flying, first find someone that is good at it and see if you can go with them. Spend time with them, work into it slow. My dad told me stories when he was just getting into it. He'd hike 6 miles to walk a strip that he wasn't sure if he could get into. So he'd land someplace that he could. He'd walk over there and say, nope, this is horrible, or, oh yeah, I could get in here. And so that's how I did it. There was lots of times I did the same thing. I don't know if I ever walked 6 miles to check out a strip, but I definitely walked over mountains and down the other side. And pay attention to color. Color is huge. It changes throughout the year, but like here, the green moss under the white grass is very different from the stuff across there. I'm always looking at color, and after you've landed a few strips, you'll be able to recognize ones that are like that one, and you'll be able to translate that to the next spot. Go slow. Still now, for me, if I'm looking at a new spot and I'm not sure if I can land it, I think I can. It's worth looking at. I'll make as many passes as I need to make sure it's good. But if on each consecutive pass, I want to be deciding, am I getting more comfortable with this or less comfortable? And if you're getting less comfortable on each pass, call it off. And that doesn't take many passes to figure that out, but I don't have a hard number for that. Some folks do. If I get to my third pass and I don't have all the obstacles figured out, I'll make 10 other passes until I know where every obstacle is. And my dad calls that a mental map. He makes a mental map of the rocks, the ditches, the trees, and then each time you come around, you're looking for every one of those. You start making friends with those. If you're coming around on a pass and all of a sudden you don't see those friends, now you know you are off either an angle or sidestep just a little bit. So you go around and come and find those. Once you get your strip figured out, then fly it precisely. If you're gonna touch down at this rock, don't fly 40 feet past it and try to touch down. Be precise, go around as many times as you need to. And if you can't be precise there, save it for another day. Go practice someplace where it's safe. I'm a huge proponent of slow flight practice. We don't practice that a lot, and we'll come out here and still land in short places, and that's a good way to stall and spin your airplane. So go out and practice regularly, stalling your plane, flying it slow, making turns, climbing and descending. Get really comfortable with what your plane is like when it's slow at different weights. You need to know your plane inside and out. Go practice at the Willow gravel strip and mark out that distance that you're wanting to land in, then come in and land there. And until you can do that consistently, don't come try it out here. That's just a good way to break an airplane. But if you get to where you can do it consistently under a certain set of conditions, then you still have to come out here and make sure the conditions are similar enough that it's going to translate. So if you practice there light and then come out here heavy, that's not good. Practice it in the conditions that you're going to come out and land in. I just love flying for flying. If all I had to fly was a kite, I'd be flying the kite. It's access. It's access into places that very few people get to see. And I love that. I love seeing what's around the next corner. I love going and exploring what's up this valley and seeing places maybe no one's ever been before, or maybe very few people have been before. I've been told, don't make a job out of it or you won't enjoy it anymore, but I've been flying for a long time, getting paid to do it, and I still love it. So our plan is we built this one to sell, and we want to keep building them like this. And we want to keep pushing the envelope on making them better and better each one. We've got some ideas that we're going to work on for the next one. By the time this video is released, I imagine there's a good chance this will already be sold, but going to do it again this next winter, Lord willing. And so if you want one, let us know.